Story, The Frog and the Ox. Once upon a time, in a green meadow, a little frog was playing near a pond. Suddenly, he looked up and saw a huge ox grazing peacefully. The frog was amazed at the ox's great size. He rushed back to his friends at the pond and shouted, "You won't believe it. I saw the largest creature in the world today." The other frogs laughed. "Nothing is bigger than you." Annoyed, the little frog puffed up his belly. "See, I can be as big as that ox." But his friends kept laughing. "You're still tiny." Angrier, the frog puffed up more and more. He swelled until his skin was tight and trembling. At last, pop! The little frog burst apart. The other frogs fell silent, realizing the danger of such foolish pride. Moral of the story. This story teaches us that trying too hard to be like others can only harm ourselves. Story, The Ant and the Grasshopper. Once upon a time, in a green meadow, an ant worked hard each day, collecting food little by little to store for the winter. The grasshopper, however, played music, sang songs, and laughed at the ant. "Why work so hard every day? Come and enjoy with me," said the grasshopper. But the ant smiled and replied, "I must prepare while the time is right." When winter arrived, the meadow turned white with snow. Food was scarce, and the grasshopper grew weak with hunger. He stumbled to the ant's home and begged for food. The ant looked at him and said, "This is the result of how you spent your time. If you had worked when you should, you would not suffer today." From then on, the grasshopper remembered the lesson. He never mocked hard work again. Moral of the story. This story teaches us that hard work and preparation are the keys to surviving hard times. Story, The Sparrow and the Rice Stalks. Once upon a time, a little sparrow lived near a rice field. Every day, it flew to pick up fallen grains from the ground. It was grateful for the food the field always provided. One day, it saw some rice stalks standing tall with pride. They mocked the stalks that bent low. "Look at us. We stand higher, never bowing to anyone." But the sparrow noticed that the bent stalks were heavy with grains. The stalks that stood tall and stiff were empty. It realized that humility was a sign of true richness. When harvest season came, the farmer carefully gathered the heavy, bowing stalks. The empty ones were left behind, of no use. The sparrow remembered this lesson. It knew that true worth comes from being humble and fruitful, not from pride. Moral of the story. This story teaches us that humility and true value are far greater than empty pride. Story, The Fox and the Grapes. Once upon a time, on a hot summer day, a hungry fox wandered through the fields, tired and thirsty. He longed for something refreshing to eat. Soon, he came across a vineyard. Clusters of ripe purple grapes hung from the tall vines. The fox licked his lips and thought, "If only I could taste those grapes." He stretched up on his toes, trying to reach them. But the grapes were far too high. So he leapt again, and again, and again. He jumped until he was exhausted, panting heavily. The grapes still hung high above, untouched. Frustration grew inside him. At last, the fox sat down angrily and shouted, "Those grapes must be sour anyway. I don't want them," and with that, he walked away with an empty stomach. But deep down, he knew the truth. He simply couldn't reach them, and his words were only an excuse. Moral of the story. This story teaches us that people often despise what they cannot achieve, instead of admitting the truth. Story, The Farmer and the Snake. Once upon a time, on a freezing winter's day, a farmer was walking across the field when he found a snake lying almost dead from the cold. Feeling pity, he picked it up and held it close to his chest to warm it. As the snake grew warm, it slowly regained strength. The moment it opened its eyes, it struck and bit the farmer deeply. The farmer fell, knowing his end was near. With his last breath, he whispered, "How foolish I was to think kindness to the wicked would make them change." Moral of the story. This story teaches us that showing mercy to those with evil natures can bring harm to ourselves. Story: The Wolf and the Lamb. Once upon a time, a little lamb went down to drink at a clear stream. At the same time, a hungry wolf appeared. He eyed the lamb and sought an excuse to attack. The wolf shouted, "You are muddying the water, making it undrinkable for me." The lamb politely replied, "But you are upstream, and I am downstream. The water flows from you to me." The wolf then growled, "Then you must have insulted me last year." The lamb shook his head and said, "I was not even born then." No matter what the lamb said, the wolf would not listen. At last, the wolf leapt upon him and carried him away. Moral of the story: this story teaches us that those who wish to do wrong will never listen to reason, and will always find excuses.